Michael Popok, Legal AF, with Donald Trump facing 4 criminal trials, in 4 different jurisdictions. It's time to talk about when those trials are likely to actually be tried in front of a jury, given the various appeals that are going on by Donald Trump, the current status of those cases. I'll give you a couple of likely scenarios as to when those trials will happen, and then we put that all against the backdrop in the context of the Republican primary season and when those things hits, because we're sitting again, as we do on Legal AF, at the intersection of law, politics, and justice. Let's start with the description of the 4 cases where they're currently scheduled, and then I'll go from there and tell you where it's more likely that they end up. First, start with the District of Columbia. That is a case, 1 defendant, Donald Trump, 4 conspiracy counts for election interference brought by Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, presided over by Judge Tanya Chutkan in the federal District of Columbia trial court level. That case had been scheduled to go forward on March 4th, but it will not happen in March. April or even May is more likely. Let's put a pin in that for now as I describe the other trials. The next trial is a state court trial. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has brought a state series of claims and felony charges against Donald Trump for what Alvin Bragg has termed election interference, but back in 2016, by trying to hide the affair that Donald Trump was having with Stormy Daniels by recording falsely in his books and records, which is a crime in New York, payments made to Stormy Daniels. That case is still on the docket, presided over by Judge Juan Merchan for the 25th of March before a jury in New York State Supreme Court, which is what we call the trial level court in New York. Then, and that case is still on the docket. I think it moves depending upon kind of in tandem with what happens with the DC election interference case with Judge Chutkan, because those 2 judges have spoken, which they're allowed to do under the canons of judicial ethics, about coordinating their trial dates. Put a pin in that for a moment. Let's talk about the next trial, the 3rd trial against Donald Trump, which is the classified documents trial, what I call the espionage obstruction case, also referred to colloquially as Mar-a-Lago. That case is in Florida, in the Southern District of Florida, before Judge Aileen Cannon in the division of the Southern District at the uppermost part of above Palm Beach County in Fort Pierce. So you got that trial going on, and that is scheduled for May, but unlikely to go forward based on Aileen Cannon's foot dragging related to decisions that she's supposed to be making to move that case ahead to have it prepared properly for a May 20th trial. And then you've got the Georgia election interference case, which is a sprawling multi-party case against Donald Trump and 14 others that remain for 30 or more felony counts related to a criminal racketeering conspiracy to interfere with the Georgia election and then in the other battleground states. That case is not yet set for trial. It's the earliest we can anticipate it would be in August. And then, of course, we've got the noise around the Georgia election interference case because of Fani Willis's relationship, which she's not yet admitted to, but she's all but admitted to, with her special prosecutor while he's going through a messy divorce, which is casting some aspersions on Fani Willis's judgment or professional ethics in continuing to retain this gentleman and also pay him while money is going back to her in the form of vacations and the like. I'm not sure much will come out of that, but there is a hearing on February 8th in front of there's a filing on February 8th and a hearing on February 15th in front of Judge Scott McAfee, the presiding judge in that case, to decide whether Fani Willis and or Nathan Wade will continue in their roles of prosecutors. I don't see the indictment being dismissed, but of course, if there's a new prosecutor being brought in, there will inevitably be a delay. So the question is, how many trials, if any, will happen before Election Day so that the American people know, one way or the other, whether they're voting for a convicted criminal or not in Donald Trump? And so let's go through those scenarios. The trial of in the D.C. election interference case in front of Judge Chutkan is currently stayed. All active engagement in that case, all preparation for that case is stayed. A pin has been put in a holding of the ring by Judge Chutkan while we wait for the D.C. Court of Appeals 3-judge panel led by Judge Pan, along with Judge Childs and Judge Henderson, to make their decision as to whether Donald Trump has absolute presidential immunity for criminal conduct to force the dismissal of the indictment. Now, we all believe on Legal AF that decision is going to go against Donald Trump, and there's not going to be a finding of presidential immunity under that fact pattern, but the case is stayed in the meantime. And Judge Chutkan has said in recent rulings that while she thought that 7 months was more than enough time for Donald Trump to be prepared for trial, when she originally set the trial date for March the 4th, we've now burned through almost 5 weeks waiting for the D.C. Court of Appeals to issue its ruling. And then there's a definite Supreme Court briefing schedule and oral argument that's going to have to be built into the schedule as well. So there is zero chance this trial goes off in March. I think it's highly unlikely at the rate that the D.C. Court of Appeals is not making its ruling. And we're here recording. I'm recording here at the end of the week. They still haven't ruled. And with another layer of appeals at the Supreme Court level, and the case stays on ice until then, this is a May trial at the earliest. Now, once it's tried, it's a couple of months before you get a jury verdict. So there is still enough time to get a jury verdict before the November election, but we're starting to creep into that box period where, judges don't like to do criminal trials before people are up for election as president of the United States, but we will see. So again, here's my reporting. Here's my analysis. That trial, D.C. election interference case, is going to get kicked till May at the earliest at the rate it is going, which means that the Manhattan criminal case, which I think would follow the D.C. election interference case. But if there's a big gap and D.C.'s not ready to go, then I think Judge Merchan holds his case at the end of March for a couple of months. Let me also disabuse anybody of any thought. There's not going to be simultaneous criminal cases going on. That would be against the rights of the accused to have a fair and impartial jury and also have enough time and due process. There's not going to be multiple criminal trials all in the same time. Start the new year knowing you found the right life insurance to protect your family with Policy Genius. Getting life insurance today means you'll have peace of mind for the rest of 2024 and beyond. So if something were to happen to you, your family can cover expenses while getting back on their feet. Luckily, Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. As regular listeners of Legal AF know, I recently got married and I got a child on the way, while other loved ones continue to count on my support. With these life changes, I had to address the type and amount of my life insurance coverage just to sleep well at night, secure in the knowledge that that part of my life was covered for my family. And that's where Policy Genius comes in. Policy Genius's technology makes it easy to compare life insurance quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Even if you already have a life insurance policy through work, it may not offer enough protection for your family's needs, and it may not follow you if you leave your job. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius has licensed award-winning agents who can help find you the best fit for your needs. They work for you, not the insurance companies. That means they don't have an incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. No wonder they have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot. Save time and money and give your family a financial safety net with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/legalaf or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/legalaf. So if the March trial starts for the Manhattan DA and takes a month or two, that's going to block any other trial from being done against Donald Trump or case prosecuted against Donald Trump at the same time. So not going to be multiple trials. Might sound obvious, but I want you to understand that these are binary. One trial is on, then another trial can't be on at the same time. All right, so let's assume under that scenario, we've kicked now, likely, the DC election interference case to May. March starts the trial for the Manhattan DA on the Stormy Daniels hush money cover-up affair. That is enough time to then, in the following May, March and April, May, Stormy Daniels, May, we start DC election interference. That means that the Mar-a-Lago case, which may be the simplest case to try, even despite the judge foot-dragging here, that is likely not going to happen in May because you'll have the finishing up of the Stormy Daniels case and the start of the Judge Chutkan DC election interference case, which as between the two cases, that's the case that Jack Smith, who's handling both Mar-a-Lago and DC election interference, wants to go first. So you'll see Manhattan DA in March through May. May, DC election interference case, blocking the Mar-a-Lago case completely off the docket, right? And all of those cases will go in front of any kind of Georgia case. And that means the Georgia case, the earliest it could go on is like August, September, and we're coming up against the November trial date, right? So if I was a betting man, there's two cases that have a shot, that are important to America to go forward before November. The Manhattan District Attorney case about the Stormy Daniels hush money cover-up, which could lead to a criminal conviction of Donald Trump by a Manhattan jury, just the way they convicted the Trump Organization of 17 counts of tax fraud 2 years ago. So he would get pinned with a criminal conviction and then a sentencing that would happen several months later, maybe at the time of the election. And then I think the DC election interference case, as long as soon, and I mean really soon, and I'm tapping my watch here for those that are listening, the DC Court of Appeals rules on the DC election interference case with Judge Chutkan, I think that case gets up and running in time before the election and probably starting in May. But that also presumes that the DC election, the DC Court of Appeals rules really soon, like in the next few days, and then it's against Trump, and then it gets taken up on appeal to the Supreme Court, and they do a fast briefing schedule to allow it to return to the trial court level. If the DC election interference case never gets off the ground in time before, the only case I think is really that has a shot at being tried is the Manhattan District Attorney case against Donald Trump for things he did before he was president in 2016. Maybe I used to say the Georgia case is going to get up and running, but now that there is all of this bad atmosphere and optics about and smoke around the prosecution because of Fani Willis's, personal decision to have some sort of out-of-work relationship with her special prosecutor, which again, I don't think is an ethical violation nor a violation of her prosecutor ethics or statements that she made at a historical black church during Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. I don't think any of that gets the indictment dismissed. Could Nathan Wade, as I've said in a prior hot take, but could Nathan Wade end up being the sacrificial lamb here? Maybe. But that could delay all of this smoke and mirrors and everything. We'll know better, and I'll be able to report better in the middle of February when Judge McAfee holds the hearing on whether to dismiss the indictment and or replace prosecutors. But right now, it's looking more and more like Manhattan DA, which, as I said on Legal AF on this past week with my colleague Karen Friedman Agnifilo, who used to be a top leader in that office, the Manhattan DA, that it would be sweet justice and poetic justice. Alvin Bragg took a lot of heat in his office for not prosecuting Donald Trump. Then when he did, he was the first prosecutor to prosecute Donald Trump, and he may be the first prosecutor to actually try a case against Donald Trump and win. And he already did it once against the companies and now against Donald Trump particularly. And then the backdrop, just to leave it on this note for the hot take, you've got Super Tuesday with several states voting for the Republican nominee, which is obviously Donald Trump, on March 5th. I don't see any trial happening before Super Tuesday. None. Even the Alvin Bragg case, Manhattan DA, is not until the end of March. Then you have, so that's Super Tuesday. Then you've got the Republican National Committee meeting in July. By July, the Manhattan DA case could already have reached verdict against Donald Trump. I don't think by July it's going to be very tight by the nominating committee that the DC election interference case, if it gets off the ground, to be done by then. And there's no way Mar-a-Lago is going to get done by then, nor Georgia. So you've got, again, one trial that may reach verdict before the Republican National Committee meets, right? And then you've got, of course, Election Day, which is November 5th, which we might have one, maybe two. And Georgia is a hard one because even if the indictment stays in place and the prosecutors stay in place, that could be an 8-month trial, according to prior reporting and comments made by Fani Willis. That's not going to get done before Election Day. So we're trying to focus here on the hot take on which of the four go to trial with a jury reaching jury verdict before Election Day and which don't. And now I've given you that outline. And I think the New York Times did a very good job today outlining a lot of this in Amy Schoenfeld-Walker's and Zach Levitt's article with an accompanying map, which I thought was really helpful. And I wanted to give you my own analysis and scenarios based on my experience as well as a trial lawyer and co-founder of Legal AF, only on the MeidasTouch network. Don't change that dial. And help them get to 2 million free subscribers. We do the show on Wednesdays and Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here. Join us on Legal AF. The title is exactly what you think. And then on hot takes like this one. If you like this kind of content, give me a thumbs up. Keeps the lights on, keeps the network on the air, so to speak, and keeps me coming to you uninterrupted. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.